Cool, let me do some close-ups. Check on the time that. Anyone can shoot for brands nowadays. Shit, we're even competing with AI now, so how do you create a campaign that you can be proud of and also make the client happy? The most important thing really is a production booklet. What is that? Let me show you. Hi, I'm Ray Brizzi. I'm a creative director and a music artist, and I've been shooting content for the last 7 years. And I'm going to talk to you about the production booklet and why it's important. Now, let me be honest, this isn't the most fun part about doing photography or video, but it's the easiest way to communicate to a client and to tell them what they're gonna get in the final product, and it's gonna save you time and headaches. Chapter 1, Discovery. So let's say a brand books you and you're trying to learn as much as possible about them. Honestly, most of the time brands don't even know what they want, especially the newer ones. So what I try to do is I create a simple look mood boards of different clothing styles, different type of shots, from super creative to basic e-commerce. And then you can look up the different looks for the brands on interest. This will let you know what the client wants and what they don't want. And then after that, you can kind of zone in on the style that they like. Chapter 2, the vision. So here is where we can tighten our mood boards. You can get rid of the ones they don't like and then zone in on the following things: hair, makeup, wardrobe, and nails. Most people think that the location is what sets things apart when you're shooting, but honestly, what makes a product look more elevated than anything else is planning hair, makeup, wardrobe, and nails. So let me show you, for example, from one of the first campaigns I was a part of. Hairstyle in a campaign says so much about a person and also expresses creativity. And I mean, look at these hairstyles. Now for makeup, you can either go basic like glam, or you can go into super crazy looks, but for this campaign, we were highlighting the hair, not so much the makeup, so we kept it minimal. Nails, surprisingly enough, can also make or break a shoot, so make sure your models are getting their nails done, otherwise it can really break down how luxurious the product looks. Lastly, wardrobe. As a creative director, clothing is one of the ways to make sure that the product stands out and makes a product look and feel expensive. Most of the brands don't know this, but it's important to talk to them about this with the brand that you're working with. I know most brands don't have the budget, but what you can do is lay down this idea and then buy similar clothes from it on Amazon and then return it. Sometimes the model might mess up the clothes, but that's only usually about like 1 or 2 pieces, which isn't a lot of money. Chapter 3, Finding Talent. Finding models is pretty simple. You can sign up for New Book Models to be able to book and search your talent. Now, you do have to apply to be able to book models through that website, but it's pretty simple. And if they don't let you in within a week, I would email them for just a quicker process so that you can be approved and hire models. Now, what I look to do, since I work with limited budgets, is that I create a job post with a specific date in mind already, and then the models apply for that listing. That way you can potentially hire someone whose rate is usually a little bit more, but they applied for that job and they know what kind of money they're getting because it's within your budget. If you need something at a lower budget or even free, I would try searching for a model Facebook group that's within your town to find local talent. And I've honestly had to do that before when I was building my portfolio, so something definitely to keep in mind. Chapter 4, Shoot Date. This is a breakdown of the gear that I use when I'm shooting, and I'm going to make it pretty brief. Typically, I shoot with the Sony a7 III, the Tamron 28-75, one strobe, a CPL ND filter, and when I'm shooting, I keep the settings at f9 and then I just change the strobe's light, and then a C-stand. And luckily for this shoot that I just shot, I had help on set. I don't like to use flashlights because they're not as strong as a 400 AD strobes, and I was using a small diffuser for this shoot. Chapter 5, Editing. Let's walk you through the editing process for me. Let's go jump in. Alright guys, so right now I'm on the computer and I'm going to show you guys kind of what I do when I'm editing. So the first thing that I like to do is when I open the image is I'm just going to duplicate the layer. And because I like keeping my first layer clean just in case I want to do anything or go back to the original, so I just keep this one here. The first thing that I actually do is when I am shooting with white, I just kind of desaturate any other color that's in here. So usually it's either blue, so you have blues, or purple. And so watch right here, there's a lot of stuff in it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of all of that. Now, one of the problems is that you guys see the sky right now is kind of gone. So I'm just gonna go make a new layer from here. I'm gonna press W for the quick selection of this thingy, the object selection tool. And then we're just gonna go ahead and select her shirt. And we're just gonna go ahead and create a new layer. And then from there, you kind of see it makes a little bit of a difference. Now her socks we are gonna have to go and fix. So I'm gonna press E for the eraser. And then I'm going to go in and delete stuff from her from here. So I said E, perfect. And then we're gonna go make this down. The quick key for this is the parentheses. And sorry, my mouse is acting up. Let me go on the wood. And I'm just gonna go ahead and delete that. Now, this isn't that important, but it kind of bothers me, so it's kind of what I like to do. And then depending on how many shots I have to turn in, I'll sometimes end up like retouching her skin, sometimes I won't. But since this is mostly just like a product shot of the bag, I don't think it's really that important, so I'm not gonna retouch her skin. Now for my A7 III, I do sometimes have these like random little orbs, so I need to go and fix those. They only show up when I'm shooting F9, so this I'm just gonna call spot healing, and I'm just gonna heal whatever I think that I need. For the quick key for this is J. We go to J and then we press it and it's gone. I don't think there's really anything that I need to clean up from here, because I like the shot as it is, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. And so now I'm just gonna duplicate this, and then another thing that I like to do is, just as I'm working on a different layer and I'm adding different things to it, I just kind of like to say when I'm working on it. And so SA just for like shadows and highlights, which I'm probably gonna do that next. But let me see what some contrast looks on this, because I mean, it's a good photo, but it looks a little flat to me right now. And so I'm just going to do this to make it a little bit moodier. It looks nice, but see how she's a little too bright. So that's where I go into these tools and I go into image, adjustments, shadow highlights. And let's see, because the main focus of this is supposed to be the strap. So this shot is nice, but it's a little too strong. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to bring this to maybe 10%. 10% is good enough. And then for the highlights, I'm just gonna bring that down by like 5, so it's not like super dramatic. Let me see what 10 looks like. Perfect. 5, and then you can kind of mess around with the preview. But I think that brings out a lot of the product. So we're just gonna do that. And sometimes if you're editing multiple photos, I like to put what I put. For like the shadows, let's say it was 10%, and then the highlights, it was 5. And so for the next time I'm editing something in the similar area, I already know exactly what it is. Now, I do like how this photo looks so far. Her skin, we will have to retouch a little bit, not too much, but just enough to like kind of make it pop a little bit more if we need to, but it is good as it is. So let me just, what I like to do with mess around with people's colors is selective colors. It does mess up the photo sometimes, but since it's all just going to social media, I don't think it's that big of a problem. So I'm just gonna mess with the cyans, and I'm just gonna make it a little bit more red, magenta. I'm gonna keep it there. The yellows or the whites, I'm gonna keep that there. And then if I want it darker or brighter, I'm gonna go for brighter for a more natural look. And then we can go to the yellows, mess around there. This makes her look a little bit more normal. So I'm going for more like of a natural look, not nothing crazy. I might just keep that at 0. That. I'm just gonna leave it there. And then here, bring it up. And then stuff around the settings usually can be moved around from here. But I like how this looks as it is. I'm not trying to like do anything super crazy. I think this photo just alone does a lot. So I'm just gonna leave this as it is. And then what I have realized as well is when I do export, I do lose some of the saturation, so I try to put like saturation back in after the image is exported. And so what I like to do is I just like to add maybe like 10, so it's a little bit more, and then maybe we'll just leave that there. And that's pretty much it. The production booklet really is a cheat code to stress-free shoots, and it makes the client happy, it makes you look professional, and it saves you from miscommunication. If this was helpful, drop a comment, hit subscribe, and let me know if there's anything more you would want me to talk about in a future video. I'm Ray Brizzy, and I'll catch you on the next one.